Who are we? Hello, good evening or good afternoon if you're in the United States on the East Coast. Welcome to Sugar, Silk and Stretch. This is a unique boxing podcast brought to you exclusively by Ace Podcast Nation. My name is Ben Doughty.
Michael Silva, legendary.
I'm Gary Stretch and I can't work with Silk.
What was so funny that was said?
He's just a walking TV show.
Yeah.
He says things and he just gets to me every time. And it's always like a second before we go on air. And he just talks to me every time.
But people seem to think our chemistry works well. I thought we were awful, but somebody who I trust said, I really like the banter between you three. It really works. So I guess if it ain't broke, what do they say? You shouldn't try to do.
Yeah, okay.
Viewers.
Last night was amazing.
Why?
Yeah, let's talk about Quebec City last night. Silk, you are always one for questioning what people were doing in the gym. When you see performances which don't look like they were everything they could have been, yes. you often ask, what were they doing in the gym? And what the hell was the corner telling them? I feel that way about Callum Smith last night. He didn't seem to have any game plan at all. He thought, I'll stand here and fire back at him and see what happens.
And that was really wild because Buddy McGirt is experienced and he fights nothing like that. But so I figured he was going to be, look, for all things being even, this kid showed absolutely no defensive tendencies at all with one of the most dangerous men in boxing. That doesn't make any sense.
I think, I mean, first and foremost, congratulations. You both beat me on the...
Oh, yeah, we weren't going to gloat, but thank you.
No, I was going to gloat. I was waiting for the right time.
Of course you were.
And my romanticism didn't work, but I just so underestimated this guy. I mean, and what was shocking about him was his defense was amazing. Callum never pierced the defense at all. I mean, he never...
Hands, right? Block,
he was like... And what was shocking was he wasn't breathing. It wasn't like he got in second gear. I don't think he had a sweat on.
No.
It was insane. I've never seen a fight. Callum Smith, who I love, he was so pressured, so exhausted, so deflated. And this guy wasn't even breathing. He never got touched. He just marched forward. Doesn't look like he's doing a whole lot, but he's doing obviously enormous amounts. And I don't know if it was the unpreparation of Callum Smith or if this guy's that good. I mean, me and Ben watched a bunch of people who had sparred with him and they kept saying he's like a force of nature, and obviously he is that and more. So I just got to take my hat off to someone who maybe is truly great, you know. I mean, I don't know. He made Callum Smith look very average. He made him look, I mean, he just deflated everything from round one. I mean, what was shocking, from the first bell, he just jumped on Callum Smith like no.
Found him so easy.
Yeah, and just found him and mauled him from the first minute.
But the thing is, when you're fighting somebody like Beterbiev, you cannot come into the ring with no head movement. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. It's absolutely mind-boggling that you would go in there and the times that he was moving his head, Beterbiev hesitated. That was the only time he hesitated. Every time he stuck out his hand, I mean, his jab was unstoppable. The right hand to the body, the left hook, everything that he threw hit him. So it was only going to be a matter of time, you know that. And he wasn't able to get back to him with anything. Callum Smith, yes, he's fast. Yeah, he's got straight punches. One thing he did have working for him, which would have worked perfectly if he had, not even that he had to withstand Beterbiev's power, is just like get the timing down of it. He was countering his right hand with the left hook. That would have worked beautifully, but for some reason, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't in his corner. They weren't telling him to pull back a little bit more and open up the hook more. But that was his punch. That was the punch to go with.
Yeah. What was shocking to me about what's the pronunciation? Beterbiev is these somewhat not specifically glamorous punches. Like they were like chopping little side of the head, back of the head, shoulders. Like there was these like chipping away.
Yeah.
But it seemed like they really hurt, you know, like he was effective. Like the little shots that didn't look like big shots were massively effective. And then you
Somebody described it as Marciano-esque, one of the journalists on X, Twitter.
Well, it didn't look much, but then you look at Callum Smith's face and it was a mess. So obviously they were doing damage. So
they were doing damage, absolutely right.
It was just like a massacre of it was like he got mugged in a car park.
I thought he was more like Duran myself, and not in the head movement, but just in the way he's able to throw. Like Duran would throw punches, and you would think they were arm punches almost, but there's some sort of weight behind them that kind of like belies how he actually physically executes the punch. Look at Duran versus Leonard 1, and when Duran hit him with that left uppercut, and it was kind of like a loose-armed. It wasn't a stiff, locked-up arm with the body weight behind it, but he caught Ray with that left uppercut, and Ray kind of was wobbling. You saw him; he was staggered back to the ropes.
Yeah, and I thought it was a hook, but I thought it was a left hook, but I'm not.
No, I think it was more like an uppercutish hook kind of.
Should we argue about that for about 10 minutes?
No, we can do that as soon as I finish making this point because I'll forget.
Go on.
Yeah, so he stood him up with that and caught him on the chin and rocked Ray, and it was the same thing with this kid because it's almost like he throws with his body and the punch is delayed in coming, like a microsecond, but it's kind of like it doesn't lock up the same way as like when you look at someone like Hearns, when he throws with his body, the punch is right on time with it. It's almost like he throws and then the punch comes afterwards and it's thrown like a weight.
What are your thoughts now on Bivol? Does he have anything to deal with this kind of power?
I feel we're a bit early to get in that discussion. Can
we
break down tomorrow a bit long, last night a bit longer, and then we get on to.
I guess, but it's just, I mean, it is bouncing off the fact that, like, who can hang with this guy? And forget.
I still think Bivol will beat him, but I think we have more things to discuss about what went on last night. I still think Bivol could beat him.
Okay.
What do you say, Phil?
Well, I'll save mine until it counts.
Yeah, you're waiting for the predictions. But he had one thing he had was a great jab, which I guess I knew that, but I was reminded of it again last night. He does have a great jab.
But what's shocking is he's 6 inches shorter. His jab's half the length, and it was landing, which is like, I don't understand it.
I think he has better timing. Basically, the only thing that helps you, like if you're shorter or you don't have that long reach, all the rest of that kind of stuff. The only thing that helps is you have a great sense of timing. He's seen enough punches in his life. He's thrown enough punches in his life, more than Smith, I'm sure. And
400 amateur fights, they said last night.
300.
400, they said last night.
No, they said 300. Honestly, I've got total recall.
I have.
Wait, what was
I have total recall. They said 400. I thought it was 200.
Somebody please Google for us Dimitri Bivol amateur fights estimate, please.
No, not Bivol.
Sorry, I'm Beterbiev. That's what I mean. He had 300. They said.
He could have had 100. They said 400 last night.
I listened to it.
Saying. I thought he had 200, but someone said 400 on the commentary.
They said 300. I swear to God, Gary. But we'll get the tape. We'll get the tape.
I made a note of it, Ben.
Was it 300 Spartans or 400?
But either way,
I thought I heard 400 amateur fights, which I thought is absurd. But I think that was on the commentary, not on factual. That's what someone said. I thought I heard 300, and I thought that's crazy. But
okay, guys, but let me tell you, Beterbiev has one gear, but he keeps that same gear from the bell. Like he's just always there. He's in your face, always on point. If he's backing up, he's still got you on. He's still got you kind of on lockdown. You have to be aware of what he's going to do, and he rarely backs up. But if he's coming forward, he's always looking for that opening, and he just puts the hands where they need to be, and I think that's one of the most beautiful things about him. He isn't trying to punch through your gloves, and he isn't trying to he'll punch around, he'll punch through, he'll punch under, he'll punch over, and that's what's why he's so accurate, and I think why he's so proficient and an excellent fighter.
He looked like he was taking his time as well. He was like half speed sometimes. He looked
no panic.
So like not even trying so much.
Yeah. Yeah, like,
Look,
there's no sense of urgency.
He's put off the gas for a minute and
Yeah.
settled it, like a very cautious, like
very
a easy execution.
Surgical.
He
Yeah.
must have great vision, like in the ring. He must just have great vision because he sees punches coming and he reacts to them. I question a little bit his defense. I think there's going to be problems there for him.
I was watching I didn't realize that when you guys were in New York and you drove to Philly, you had Scully in the car.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Scully. Well, I didn't know it was Scully. I was watching Scully yesterday, and he said he doesn't even know who he's fighting, Beterbiev. He said he doesn't care. He doesn't watch boxing.
He's not a boxing fan.
He said if he met Tank Davis, he would not have a clue who he is.
Yeah, we watched that together. Yeah.
Doesn't know his opponents, doesn't watch them, doesn't care, just says you're fighting such a way, he just says okay. He says he trusts them to tell him stuff in the gym. And he doesn't even know who he's fighting.
Mickey Duff said that about John Mugabe. He said a lot of these early KOs come from not knowing. He said he doesn't know the difference between Don Turner and Curtis Parker, an off-beaten club fighter and a French world class fighter. He said he just doesn't know who they are, doesn't know the difference.
I guess it's good in a way that you don't have any kind of limits with the fears or whatever. He just goes in and does what he just takes. He said he just does what he does.
Yeah, it's personality driven, and I think that some people would prefer to see the storm coming than you know what I mean, getting the storm and rely on your instincts and your abilities, which I guess from what you say, that's what he tends to do. He relies on his ability. He believes in his ability and his instincts. He doesn't believe there's a man in his division that can handle what he's got, and he believes he could handle anything that comes his way.
Can you guys see what author Brian Duncan has commented about the amateur experience?
No.
It says, I don't recall the commentary, folks, but factually it's 300 amateur fights.
Okay. Well,
I give
you that again. It was not the factual; it was the commentary. I was concerned.
But I only got that figure from the commentary. That's the only reason I got.
But then that doesn't make you seven wins now. That doesn't get.
You're obsessed with this competition, Silk. You're so obsessed. You know what?
We're even, Silk. Me and you, 7-3, 7-3, and
what are you? 7-3. That's incredible.
What are you?
The funny thing is,
what are you, Ben?
Achieving. Okay, I'll break down the scoreboards for our predictions league. Right, they were in competition against each other. Gary is 7-3, Silk is 7-3, I'm 7-5. So we all have 7 predictions correct. I have 5 predictions wrong.
How did that happen? But Gary, how did he get to 7 so quick?
I don't know. I don't believe he
did.
Was
at 6 last week.
I think he plays with numbers. Like
I thought last time he was at 4.
I've been watching Ben lately, and the numbers have been changing.
I think Michael, if we rely on your memory, we really are screwed. We really are. But guys, what I was going to say to you, I'm talking of Beterbiev again. Did you guys? One of our viewers has mentioned it in the comments, but did you see what Tony Bellew said today?
Yeah.
You saw that. Do you want to take the story up, Silk, or do you want to take the issue up?
No. I saw what he said, but I forget what he said. So you can.
Oh, there we go. You forgot it. Thank you. So, natural order restored. I shall continue. So Tony Bellew said. He basically said, yes, great. We all want the Bivol fight, and and it's an amazing performance. He said, but
I know what he said.
Go on then. You're back in the game. Go on.
Okay, so Tony Bellew said that he thinks that Beterbiev is actually cheating, for lack of a better word.
He implied it heavily. He said, why is he getting more destructive and getting better with age at 39? He'll be 39 on the 21st of this month. He said, show me a fighter who gets stronger and more destructive the older he gets. Which is a narrative he's spinning, and he says, our great sport needs looking at the same way baseball did. That's what he says.
George Foreman, maybe. George Foreman was as destructive, at least.
Bernard Hopkins,
Hopkins, yeah. I mean, there are fighters. The thing is, like, boxing is such a subjective thing. Like, you can't generalize on individuals like that. It's like ridiculous. It's ridiculous. This man is 1, he's clean living. 2, he's hardworking. 3, he's gifted with the physical attributes that he has. He's gifted, and so why not just believe what is? Why does there always?
And he's always been a beast. He's not getting more destructive. He's always been like that.
Exactly.
If anything, he's getting a little slower footed. Some people say head movement is actually diminishing a bit. But they say he's still got that power, that strength, and the kind of
everybody knows with power is the last thing with punches, with boxes. If you have power, power is the last thing to go.
So that's one myth.
What's interesting about him is that if you look at training footage, right? Every other boxer, you see all these different types of training footage. With him, 90% of the footage online of him training is weights, and he's doing like massive powerlifting and clean and jerks and like crazy wrist push-ups on his wrists, on his fingers, on his arms, and like crazy. Everything is sinew, bone, strength, core,
muscle,
and so he's just like, and he looks like his chest was about 8 inches deeper than Callum Smith. He's like shorter, but like I can imagine the strength of him, core strength.
He must be really strong.
It doesn't always translate to punching, but obviously it does with him.
Normally, as you said, Gary, it doesn't. Like a weightlifter's program is not something that you would want any boxer to, because it tends to lock the muscles up. But with him, again, like he has a certain relaxation when he throws still, and I don't know. It's like something you'd have to really analyze his style and kind of understand where it's all coming from. He does have he does twist his. Like a lot of weightlifters or people that lift weights and box, what they tend to do, they lock their joints up and they punch, like they push punch. And he does still have this when he punches, like his core flings the shot. He does have a slow retraction. And I think that's where, when we get onto the b-ball thing, that's where he's going to have a problem.
To completely cancel out Callum Smith's boxing IQ, he must have an amazing boxing IQ, because he just diminished whatever Callum Smith tried to do, just didn't work.
Yeah.
Can I say something now, Gary?
Yes.
Maybe Callum Smith has been a bit overestimated in British boxing circles to a degree. I know you can tear anybody's record down. You can even do it with a guy like Carlos Monzon. But listen, his best win is against George Groves, who you no doubt you'll admit was shot, worn and injured, and on his last legs. I think that was his last fight, Groves, That was his best win. He lost to John Ryder, but they gave him the decision. Okay, so he beat that Hassan Endam on the Joshua Ruiz 1 undercard. What else does Callum Smith really have to bring to the table in terms of elite performances?
But also Callum Smith believes he's the man. So you're not fighting just a regular Callum Smith. You're actually fighting someone who believes they are the man, which means he's coming in there with 100% of and more than what you see.
Well, I'll tell you, forgetting his record, when I watch him, Callum Smith, and I've seen a lot of his fights, I rate him. I rate his style. I rate his punch power. I rate his IQ. I like the way he fights. So I have
no IQ left,
right? And I would put him in with 95% of the guys out there, and probably bet on him. But that was a step into another realm last night that he was way out of.
But the last time he stepped up, he was very disappointing as well. All right, fought Saul Canelo Alvarez, but he did nothing that night except survive. I'm not blaming him. It's easy for me to say, sitting here nice and safe, maybe make myself a coffee in a little bit, but he didn't do anything.
I think weight was an issue with Canelo. I really do. But let's and he went 12 rounds, so which is a feat in itself. Never really got hurt. So that says something about him. And if he had weight issues, then it's testament a great performance with weight problems. But other than that, he's been extremely impressive to me. I thought he beat Ryder, to be honest.
Are you kidding me?
No.
All right.
No, I did. I thought he beat him.
That was roundly lambasted, that decision. But not that means you're wrong.
I would have given it to him.
Well, they did, but it was a very unpopular decision. I think rightly so. I really do.
Well, I don't know if people watched. I mean, when you really watch the fight, I think, and who hit who more.
If you think Callum did that, you've got to give it to him. But
I thought he had the cleaner shots, the more accurate shots. He got hit less. I give it to Callum Smith. Not easy, not without any kind of question. I thought he won the fight.
It's not like they're renowned for
George Groves, sure, a little past his prime, but still a good fighter, and he just destroyed him. A couple of other guys he beat in for fashion. I mean, I don't think you can bag on him because he got beat last night. I just think we're underrating Beterbiev because I think
we're not. We're not at all. We're not at all.
Well,
I just don't think Callum Smith is an elite fighter.
No, but I think we are because I think. I mean, you may not be, but I am. I've never experienced a fighter like that before in my life.
He's fought 2 elite opponents, and he did nothing against both of them.
No, okay. So let's look at that. Look at Canelo and look at the fight last night. It's chalk and cheese. If that's a comparison, that means Beterbiev destroys Canelo.
Well, Canelo doesn't seem very keen on fighting.
Canelo is not going to fight.
If that, because it was not even a fight, Callum Smith last night. It was a beatdown.
There's no way Canelo and Beterbiev are fighting.
But Canelo Smith was very one-sided. It just went the distance.
Yeah, but he
didn't let his hands go.
Been in there. It didn't look like he was like his life was in danger. It looked like last night like he was surviving. And I was thinking, like, if Buddy McGirt would have jumped in, I thought he could have got comatized.
Yeah,
you know, that's scary. And I think Buddy McGirt knew it was scary. It was going to a place no one wanted to see, and that was and he was just getting going. You know, he was just getting going. He hadn't even started on low. He was just warming into it. Scary. Canelo had the whole night, and he never got to that place ever that he looked scary to Callum Smith. He was better than him, and he had the edge.
Did you see the body shots? Do you see the body shots by Beterbiev? Some of those things. I mean, you see the reaction from Smith when he got hit. It's almost like it registered on his face.
Yeah. When I think of body shots, you usually think I think of left hooks to the liver and that kind of Mexican kind of style.
Yeah.
But guys like Beterbiev, they hit your body with straight right hands.
Yeah.
And that's what they seem to really hurt you with. You know what I mean?
It was just a beatdown, and it was almost uncomfortable to watch for me. It was like, especially being a fan of someone, like, you know, not a fan, but like I like Callum Smith. I like everything about him. So I was watching him. I was concerned for his health, where I thought this is not going to end well. Brave. Let's stop. Let's just not forget a brave performance by Callum Smith.
It was. It was.
He fought. He stood there and he dug it in the trenches, tooth and nail. He didn't. There were many times he exchanged and stood and had a gunfight with him. So let's not. Yeah, he's great. Ballsy. He went out, you know, in a ball of fire. So let's give him that. But just levels, it was a big shot. Levels were way apart.
Ben, how would you train? How would you train Callum Smith, Ben? If you were to fight Beterbiev, how would you train him going into?
So suppose he's going in fresh again, and we haven't had the fight yet.
Yeah.
Honestly, Silk, box and move all night. Don't try and impose yourself on him. Don't say, "Oh, you can't run with him. You're giving him too much momentum." Try and go with his relatively slower, older legs. Make him work. Make him chase you. It was going to be difficult, you know, Silk, because I believe the ring was only 18 feet, which that obviously hampers that kind of game plan. But I would just say box, and box some more, and don't.
I think he tried that. I think again,
he did not try that, Gary. He came out straight away.
Oh, I know that. You know what, Ben?
He didn't try that.
Ben, in respectfully, the success he had, the little success he has, is when he backed Beterbiev back. So let's
because that's all he was trying to do.
No, but if you say box, run, dance, that was not working for him last night. When he
didn't try it. He did not try it. He never tried it.
There was times and he got caught on the ropes. When he pushed Beterbiev back, he had the most success. So it's like
the thing is, when he pushed him back, he got hit. Every single time he got hit after that.
Ben's talking a logic way, like a bystayer would say. It's exactly like.
No, I'm not, Gary. Honest to God, I'm not.
Let me finish, Ben. It's exactly like the first time someone pushed Deontay Wilder back, they had his number. And that's when that's where you're wrong. If you try and box the guy last night, he cut you off. He's got great footwork. He's got great ringmanship.
So let's see what happens when Bivol fights him and see what strategy.
Before we get to Bivol, what kind of strategy? Okay, so then let me ask Gary. Gary, what kind of strategy? You are Smith's trainer for this fight. What would you do?
I tell you what I would do. I tell you what I would do. Honestly, I would try and back him up. put him on his back foot. I would not so much box going backwards. I would take the center of the ring. I would throw sharp, long, stiff jabs that are my defense. He's got to get through that power jab, whip it out, snap it, stand there, throw it. He's got to get through that, not dance around and try and box. He'll just cut you off and chop you down like a tree. You have to.
That's what he did anyway, to be fair. So it was worth a try. That's what I'm saying.
Ben, he asked me for my my boxing strategy. I would stand and I would throw hard, long, fast shots and demand my space. That's the only chance you have for me. And if you can catch him, fantastic. If you don't, but if you try and run with him, he'll just chop you down like a tree.
I understand that, Gary, and sometimes movement is not always the antidote. And saying stick and move, like as a cliche, I realize it's not always it's not always that simple. And sometimes fighters move too much. They give a guy too much momentum. I understand that, but he needed to try that in the first 3 rounds or something. The first 2 rounds, even he started abysmally. He was so there to be hit.
He needed to establish a fast, hard, strong jab, something that stops a man coming in. He was in between both yesterday. He was neither running nor standing. He was kind of, the jab wasn't effective. And that's like Silk says, maybe that's the fantastic timing of Beterbiev. But to be honest, after watching last night, I don't think I could tell him how to beat him.
Yeah. That was the game plan.
I don't think there is a game plan for Callum Smith. Now, if the other fellow, Bivol has a plan, I think it will not be the one you think. I think it will be a lot of movement, a lot of high volume, but I don't think he'll particularly be running.
I don't think he'll be running. I think he'll be in front of Beterbiev, but he has greater dexterity. Yeah, he has greater dexterity than
and maybe he has great timing too. So if you get 2 guys with great timing, now we have a fight.
Yeah. What Bivol does is that push away all the time. He bounces onto the front foot and then onto the back foot, and he gives angles as well. So he pushes away out of range all the time. You see him on the bag doing it. You see him in the ring doing it. He's just constantly pushing off that front foot to get out of range all the time.
What's interesting with both of them, neither one of them is particularly impressive to watch. When I watch Bivol, it's not like watching Ray Leonard or Hagler. He's not impressive. He doesn't kind of turn me on when I watch him. But everyone says he's so effective. And like Beterbiev last night, he doesn't look amazing, but he's so effective. So if you get 2 guys that everyone says when you get in with them, they're so difficult, they're so effective. Now we have a fight. So who's going to be the most effective? Who's got the style that is the most difficult to deal with, and who can impose? And what's great about it is they're both pretty much unbeaten.
You have that. I don't really have that wow factor when I write.
Say what? Go on.
I can't hear you. I can't hear anybody.
Can you
hear
going
me? In and out. I think Gary's.
Yeah, you just.
Hello.
He's frozen. Gary, you're frozen.
No, he's not frozen. You froze, and then
you're frozen.
Gary's still here.
I'm here, Ben. I'm here, Silk.
Must be your connection.
No, I know he's here. Oh, okay.
Well, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Great. What were you saying, Silk?
I can hear you.
What were you saying?
Yeah, I was saying that I thought that yes. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. You hear me?
What are you saying?
Okay. What I was saying was, I believe, like, when I remember looking at the guys that we were talking about, like Marvin Hagler, I never got the wow factor from Hagler. He was workman. He had put in a workman-like. He was exceptional. Yes, he was great. All those things. But the wow factor came from, your Sugar Ray Leonards, your Camachos, your Tommy Hearns, you know what I mean? Like Roy Jones, you know what I mean? Those are the wow factor type guys. And I do not see Bivol in that. Bivol
no, because he's too clinical. He's too clinical.
No, with Hagler, what you saw was a breakdown of someone, right?
Yeah, he breaks somebody down. Yes, by the book.
And for me, that was, you know, you'd see him impose himself eventually. You know, there would be a fight, and then he would start to impose himself. Then he'd break you down, then he'd beat you up. Right? It was like you go on a journey with him.
He was surgical.
With Leonard, we had the wow factor. You know, with Roy Jones, the wow factor. But with Beterbiev, it's like he mugs you. It's not like he's like he chips away at strange times, and suddenly you get a guy who's 100% ends up like a battered rag doll in about 7 rounds.
Yeah.
And
Well, he's a maestro, right?
He's not quite sure how it happened. Choppy shots, nothing particularly clean. Shots that glance, but obviously are damaging. It's like a Messi almost, but in a very tidy way. It's like
you get bludgeoned.
He just beats you up in an unorthodox way. It must be extremely effective. Doesn't look.
You wake up the next morning and you have bruises all over your body
that you don't even know you have. places, and that's
you're like, did I get hit there? I don't even remember getting hit there.
Yeah, and so with Hagler, you see a plan and you see an execution. With all the other guys, it's but with him, it's just like a choppy mess. And
I just see Hagler and Beterbiev being the same type of fighter in that way.
That would be a fight.
They're the same type of fighter. Like, you know what I mean?
That would be a fight, Hagler and Beterbiev. But
I wouldn't like to put Marvin in that one. Marvin was a 160 guy. He didn't even weigh 160 half the time.
No,
he actually weighed in under 160.
Weights. I'm saying if there were similar weights, it would be interesting. But
if there's similar weights, Hagler beats him because Hagler a better fighter. But
I don't know, Ben. I think this is what I'm saying. He looks to be a better fighter, but the effect is not so. He doesn't have the record that Beterbiev's have. 20 and 20 knockouts.
But that's only 20 fights, isn't it?
Let's be honest. Hagler had some average performance.
Hagler had 52 KOs in 62 wins.
Yeah, he had some average fights. Furmore beat him.
No, he didn't. He didn't. They drew.
It was a draw, but it was. Watch the fight. It was like it was close. But I'm saying, Beterbiev doesn't look to be the fighter of Hagler, but his record suggests he might be more than the fighter of Hagler. That's what I'm saying.
No, it doesn't suggest that at all. 20-0 does not suggest you're anywhere near Marvin Hagler. So it doesn't.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But he's going to take a long time to get to. I hope. I almost hope he is on the juice if he's going to rival Hagler's legacy, because he's going to need to be, I think. But we all agree though that Tony Bellew is taking a cheap shot, which is rather ironic considering he defends Conor Benn so much.
You can't do that to a fighter. Here's a man who fought his heart out. He's fought his whole life. And to all of a sudden to tag him with like that without any understanding and knowledge of who he is and what he does, that's probably about the lowest you can go. To make a blind claim like that, it's almost criminal. Like it's character assault. And Beterbiev, this guy has a platform where he's talking to a whole bunch of people and he's speaking irresponsibly. It's like, you don't know that. You can't talk like that. No, it's not right.
Some people, of course, Gary, they think everybody's on it, don't they? Some people will say to you privately, I think they're all on it at the top level. How much credence do you give to that kind of school of thought when some people say, trust me, they're all doing it?
I think it's like Silk says, it's a criminal character flooring. I think you've got to give some people some credit. A lot of these fighters have great character, great morals. They're amazing men. They want to beat you fair and square. I mean, give some people we're not all out for money and all out to cheat. There's some incredible human beings in the fight game. Yeah. Don't put everyone in the same. I'm sure there's flaws in the game. There's some fighters may do certain things. We know it, but 90% of the fighters I'd like to believe don't, and I like to believe they don't because they don't want to.
I think 90% is probably a bit optimistic, unfortunately, but I hear you.
Well, I mean, if you look at the weight, a lot of these guys who've been the same weight for a long period of time, I think sometimes when you get these guys, multi-weight winners who are going up and down extreme from they start at a certain weight and they end up 3, 4, 5 weight divisions above.
Well, Manny Pacquiao.
I think I'm not sure. I tell you about Manny Pacquiao because I've lived around it. I was there for years around Manny.
Yeah, you must have
He
been.
is a natural. Like if Manny eats, he gets big. You know,
Yeah.
if he diets, he doesn't. But he's got carbs bigger than fucking Lennox Lewis. He always has since I've seen him. He's a strong. I think Manny just ate well and trained hard. I don't think it's. And knowing Manny in the small amount that I do, I don't think it's in his DNA to want to do it. I don't think he's that kind of guy. That's just me. But I think he went up weight naturally, and he ate and he trained hard.
Flyweight to like middleweight.
He's a bit of a freak genetically, Manny. You know, he really is.
What do you think, Silk?
Well, flyweight, don't forget, he was very young when he was a flyweight, right?
He was a pro, but he was a pro, yeah.
Pro, but he was light. I know when I started pro, I started at like 135.
And if you look at Manny, he's done it over a long
35 pounds when I started in 1981. And by 1983 or 4, I was fighting middleweight, even though I could have.
You should have stayed at lightweight.
Sorry?
I'm joking. I said you should have stayed at lightweight. You might have got somewhere.
I think Manny, if you look at Manny's career, he did it over a very long period of time.
Yeah, he did. But it was quite quick at one. I remember him saying at one point he didn't think he'd go any higher than 140. That was the absolute tops. I think he even said 135, and then he ends up going up to 154. I mean, you can't damn a man off the basis of him, estimating something wrong. But
yeah, well, it's not like nobody does it. Somebody obviously does it. Some people do it, but that's not something.
Holyfield. Some people tell you must believe in Santa Claus if you don't think Evander Holyfield was juicing. Yeah, you must be absolutely naive as hell. Well, that's what people say.
They're like I've never participated. I've only heard of them performance enhancing drugs like on the periphery. I've never dealt with them myself, and I didn't even know
I've
that
never seen it in my career, to be honest. I've never been around it. No.
Yeah.
The only Gary, the only experience I have directly of it, to an extent directly. You remember Big Larry Oliver Miwo, who I know you knew because I think he met you out in Los Angeles, I believe, because he's got acting aspirations and he does it. You know, Big Larry.
Yeah, the heavyweight.
Yeah, the heavyweight. So I trained him at the Repton when he first started amateur, when he just got out of prison, and then he turned pro initially with James Cook, and there were some people had suspicions even from the amateur days maybe he's on something, and he always left it off and said, "No, we're just from a big Nigerian family. It's genetic. All the men in our family were like absolute powerhouses, like me and my brother." And then he tested positive. I think it was after. Basically, he got knocked out by John McDermott in a round, and then he came back with a new trainer. And then he had a fight with Ashley Sexton, which was stopped on I think he got a cut or an injury of some sort, maybe an arm injury. They gave a technical decision. He lost, and then he tested positive after that. And he admitted to taking the EPO for that thing that doubles your red blood cells, I believe. Then he also admitted to another 12, the TICs to be taken into consideration. He admitted to taking another 12 banned substances since his amateur days. So he basically confessed to being a walking pharmacy.
I tell you what, another thing to consider, Ben, it's the camps. For example, if you offered Jimmy or Mark Tibbs, performance enhancing drugs for the athletes, they'd knock you the fuck out. I mean, I believe strongly, the Tibbses and people like that are so pure in the way in which they approach the game. And I think, looking at the camps, obviously, Freddie Roach wouldn't know a steroid from a fucking Malteser. No. So he had no clue. Whether we get into now this new strength and conditioning trainers, if they have some influence and don't talk to the coaches, who knows?
Well, you know about Alex Ariza, right? Who was pals up with Freddie for a while, for a long time.
Yeah, I know him very well.
So you know him. Well, see, it was
not someone I particularly like, and he's not someone that he's an egomaniac.
Yeah.
And not a particularly nice guy. And I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. So I would put him in that boat. If I had to guess, I'd say, yeah, he would use.
Well, Larry came back from LA, a little training camp, working with Alex and with Freddie for a bit. He came back and then he fought in London and he tests positive for EPO. Just have
Well, I
to.
would think Freddie knows nothing, and Alex may.
Yeah.
I'm not accusing
Sure.
Alex, but I'm saying Freddie certainly wouldn't have a clue about it. He would not have a clue about that stuff. It's just not in his vocabulary.
Well, the person involved might have told me who applied it, and it wasn't Freddie.
Yeah, and I think Jimmy Tibbs is a man of, and Mark Tibbs. I think they're a chip off the same block. They are principal men, and I think that principally they would not. And I think there's a lot of trainers like that, like Tony Sims, I believe, is a principal man. So that but
Conor Ben's failed twice, regardless. That's the thing. Tony wouldn't have nothing to do with it, but
maybe this is what I'm saying. If these now, the modern era, they have these new strength and conditioning guys, they could be the poison in the sport. Not particularly the trainers.
I hear that the right hand don't know what the left hand's doing, right?
Absolutely not. Yes.
Yeah.
And you can imagine strength and conditioning guys getting into fighters' head saying, "Look, it's good. It's
First of all, strength and conditioning guys have no business in boxing.
No,
these guys are just like they drive me. It drives me absolutely nuts.
But Beterbiev probably has one, right, Gary? You're doing all that stuff he was doing. That's not a boxing guy's workout, is it?
Yeah, no, it isn't. You're absolutely right.
No,
What do you think, Silk?
I got mates who are real estate salesmen, right? And they trained themselves. They've been going to the gym on a Saturday and the weekend or whatever for 20 years on their own, and they're fucking experts at weight. So, I mean, he's been training this man like 300 amateur fights and 25 years. He knows his way around the gym, but I'm sure he's got people, but I don't particularly think they may be strength and conditioning. It's like Scully. Scully's like an assistant to them, but he's not a strength and conditioning, but he's a knowledgeable, he's a boxing guy. But I'm sure they have people who know strength and stuff, but I don't think it's particularly the strength and conditioning like the Alex Ariza or whatever type people who come into the game with that as their specific, Yeah.
Okay, so to revisit what I asked earlier about fighting Beterbiev and how you would fight him. So Ben, you stated your point clearly.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I understand. Listen, I wouldn't always prescribe move, stick and move, because I think that can be a cliche and it can be no damn good against a certain fighter. Sometimes some guys you can't run from them. You have to let them know that you're there. But I would say no, we're not going to let him know we're there, because you saw what happened when he tried to do that. You see it last night. You see how that game plan played out.
I'll give you an example. I know I lost to Eubank, right? But but when I was ahead of all the judges' scorecards, but I didn't particularly have much of a tear up with him. Like, I didn't have a big fight with him, but I didn't run and move.
No, you stood your ground.
Stood my ground, and I fought strict. I was very strict, long shots. I sat behind the jab. He couldn't walk through. I didn't allow him to walk through me. So there was a certain amount of engagement without running, but it was disciplined.
But sometimes running works, is all I'm saying. You're absolutely right. Some boxing masterpieces are performed on a dime, and that's the way it should be. You look at Eddie Mustafa Muhammad when he beat, I believe it was Marvin Johnson. He could have done that. I remember KO magazine said he could have boxed on a dime that night. You see, guys, Pernell Whitaker didn't use a lot of movement half the time. So I understand. And you didn't, against Eubank, that was working very well. But sometimes movement and just not staying there does help, though. That is a legitimate game plan. It's not one size fits all. But last night, I think he needed to make himself much scarcer than he did in the first 2 rounds.
The thing is, the one thing about offense is, which I've always found, is when you're throwing shots, Ben, you're competent in the game, as is Silk, is when you're throwing stuff, people have to deal with it. And they can't particularly do what they want to do when they're going to deal with what you're doing. So there's a certain amount of, you've got to keep something in their face to keep them occupied, and by when you kind of, when I hear run and move, that gives Beterbiev a lot of time to cut, to this, to think, to time, to plan. Like I've always believed you've got to keep putting something in front of them to keep them occupied, just so that you can try and set stuff up. But
I would do things quite unconventionally with Beterbiev, because what happens with everybody, they see he's stiff, he's strong. You want to maintain the range. You don't want him to get in close on you and throw combinations. So everyone's going to say, use the jab to keep him off you. Absolutely the wrong. Here's what he'll eat you up if you throw the jab at him because it's too conventional. He's seen it a billion times. I would not have a jab versus Beterbiev at all. The jab is like the breadcrumbs that lead back to your Hansel and Gretel's house. It's like, everyone knew where they were. You follow the breadcrumbs. It leads to the chin.
So you're coming out against Beterbiev with no jabs.
Yeah, exactly. The jab leads to the chin. Where you last punch is where your head is. Like the punch is a straight, look at this. It's a straight direct line back to your chin. If Beterbiev moves one way or the other, he knows he's just punching to the end of your chin, to the end of your hand, and he's hitting you. So that's what I'm saying. So you need to step off. You need to throw it like you need to throw with, like, if you're orthodox, right leads, left hooks, those kinds of punches. Beterbiev is not fast. So if you have a quick release, you're going to be able to catch him, or at least make him hesitate and think when you throw heavy firepower and not the jab. If you're throwing the jab, you're tapping him, he'll slap that aside, he'll block it, he'll get away from it, he'll drop down, come with the right hand, you'll throw your jab, he'll like whap, put that right hand to your ribs, a straight right hand to your ribs, all things like that.
Just giving him places to work.
Hey, you got to do it different against this guy. There's nothing he hasn't seen before. So you have to like pretend like lead with the right hand, but come with the left hook and make that your number one. You need to start off at the body, but you cannot lead with the jab. It's not going to work. He knows how to break that down.
Well, a guy like Roy Jones, for instance, was obviously a very different animal to Callum Smith, but that's why Roy could come out in the first round of a fight, and his opening combination might be a double left hook.
Roy in his prime had ridiculous reflexes.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's where Beterbiev would be in trouble with Roy, because Roy's reflexes are like insane, Yeah. So what was interesting last night, Callum Smith has got one of the greatest, check left hooks. Just didn't work at all with this guy, and he tried. And he tried. He read it like a book, Beterbiev. He never got caught with that check left hook.
I think you're talking about the catch counter, right? When you catch with this hand and you fire left hook back, yeah?
No, I think he was pulling back and coming.
Pulls back and just throws a left hook, like, out of nowhere. He throws this left hook that just comes from, he times this. It's a body movement. He can be leading on his front foot, and then just as you come to him, he'll go on the back leg and throw a whip, a left hook. And
I think he made the mistake of feeling Beterbiev's, like, the power took him off. He took his center off. He hit him, and
I think he never recovered from the first opening minute.
No,
I think the first opening minute took him out of his game.
He saw it was different, yeah.
And he was then, I think it rattled him, and I think he never quite got. I would have loved to see him have a comfortable first round, sit down, breathe, reinforce the game plan, come out and start to chip away. I think he the bell rang, he got kind of overwhelmed immediately, and it always like catch up after that. And
everyone was like, you know what? The bell rings, come out there, find your range with the jab. Keep him at the end of your jab. That same old thing that's regurgitated a billion times. And you're taller than him. You're faster than him. Why aren't you hitting him with the jab? Why aren't you keeping him at the end of your jab? So step off when he, all that predictable stuff. Like, fighters understand, they adapt to that.
And what's interesting is, let's say Beterbiev never had seen Callum Smith and didn't know the power he had. He certainly looked that way in the first round. He just went cautious. The wind, his bell rang. He just jumped.
Yeah.
Smith couldn't put a dent in him, could he, Gary? Smith wasn't bothering him with anything he was throwing at him.
He jumped on him from the beginning, and Smith covered up. I mean, he was almost like an onslaught immediately against the ropes, covering up, getting caught, choppy punches. That hurt, obviously. I think he got rattled from the start, Smith. I don't think he ever really recovered.
And it wasn't as if Smith wasn't hitting him, though, was it? It wasn't as if Smith wasn't landing his own shots, but they just weren't making any kind of dent in Beterbiev whatsoever.
It would take a certain amount of time for that to happen. Like, obviously, everything has its tolerance levels, and Beterbiev has his, but Smith just never got it started. He was never able to find a consistent, nothing he could hang on to. Nothing was stabbed, because he was looking to, like, as soon as the jab didn't work, bow. Your battle plan just drops out. The bottom drops out.
The biggest surprise for me, if you watch the fight, was he was not breathing, Beterbiev. He was not. He went in the corners. He was not out of breath. He was barely sweating. He was like he was. You know, Smith looked like he'd been in a war after 7, 8 rounds. Like he just Beterbiev sat down. He wasn't even breathing. It's like he was in second gear.
So let me ask you guys on the on Beterbiev, where do you place him now in the pound for pounds? And
I don't care about that.
Before.
I don't care about that. I think there's far too much attention given to that.
Okay, so who do you think are the best 5 fighters in the world?
I tell you something. I think that you can talk pound for pound or not, Ben, or respect it or not. But I'll tell you something. Who would you say, if you go through the weights, who's the most difficult guy to beat in that weight? And I would say Beterbiev would be one of the top people that, if you're light heavyweight or whatever weight they are, he is
most formidable champion.
The most difficult guy to beat in any weight right now.
Well,
maybe.
Maybe. I think Crawford and Davis. Is Davis is champion?
I think Tank and Crawford too, maybe.
Yeah. I think it might be.
I'm a Crawford fan, but I think that Beterbiev looks like he's like there's some people who could give, like, we talk Haney, we talk Tank, and we talk
I don't talk
Crawford, and there are fights out there, Ennis and some of these guys that you can see having a fight.
Ennis right now is talented.
Yeah.
But I don't see, like, other than Bivol and maybe I think, who know, like, if Beterbiev gets rid of Bivol in easy fashion, you've got to put him on a list somewhere.
That won't happen, but yeah, of course you have to put. I think you already put him on some kind of list. If for people who enjoy those lists, the pound for pound thing, that some people find it fun. Remember, Gary, you also really like the cruiserweight Jay Opataya, right?
I love him, yeah. Love him.
Yeah, so don't forget him when you thinking of your.
But I think he's not had the opportunity to show how good he is yet.
I've never seen him. In fact, I don't know if I've heard of him.
So I think this is someone who is one to watch. Ben knows him well, and he's exciting. He's someone who's going to make a mark, and so I think he's one to be considered once he gets the opportunity and the opponents to show how good he is. But he's an exciting prospect.
Rumor has it he'll be on the Usyk Fury undercard, that's February 17th. That show.
Isn't he?
Usyk Fury.
Isn't he about to go out right now, Ben?
Say again, what is who we're going to what?
Isn't he about to pull the trigger with a fight right now, like in the next week?
Who are we talking about? What do you mean pull the trigger?
The
Opataya.
Yes, and I'm sure he's fighting in a week or so. Like he's got to fight.
No. The rumor is he's on the February 17th card. He's not fighting in a week or so. No.
Okay.
He's only just fought December 23rd. Although he was only in there.
So I mean, February is like, what is it? 2 weeks away? Not even 2 weeks. A week away.
Fury Usyk will come around soon enough. As will. I told you about this before we came on air, Michael. Gary and I are going to go to the press conference tomorrow for Joshua versus Ngannou, which will be.
That's going to be
funny,
great.
Because I was really not having anything to do with the Fury and Ngannou thing. I literally wouldn't even talk about it. And then now we're going to this press conference tomorrow.
Isn't that so funny? You could talk all sorts of smack, and then all of a sudden,
Ben's pushing me in the wheelchair tomorrow.
Yeah, that's how we're getting in. Yeah, it's going to be like Little Britain, but boxing version.
I put the neck break off, everything. I look normal. Yeah. When the show ends, I get the brace and I get back in the chair and I wheel myself out the room.
Heckle and Jekyll over here. That's funny.
But no, we're going to go and get some good, hopefully get some interesting stuff. And it's. What are your thoughts on that fight, Ben? I think Joshua is going to do a much better job than Fury.
I hope so, Gary. I hope so.
And you hope so because it's safe face of boxing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure.
Basically, that so it strikes a little bit of fear in you that you can't just say like the heavyweights today are just that numb and that non.
Listen, look, I don't have a problem with that. I've actually done some highly eloquent outbursts on the heavyweight division today. When Fury was riding as high as he could get, when everybody was already up on him. And then Simon, from Ace Podcast Nation, when I used to do this with him, said, why would you? I get the impression you don't feel that you're not feeling this recent assertion. Fury is the greatest heavyweight of all time. And I went into one for about 10 minutes solid with facts, figures, reality, truth, insight, vitriol, venom. I am far closer to you. All I'm saying, what I'm not going to do is bang on endlessly that that the heavyweight division is completely lousy. When I remember times when it was worse. The Klitschko era was worse.
Oh yeah,
Worse.
it was bad.
So, but I don't have any issue at all saying that. I mean, you think about someone like Joe Fraser. Is it what guy couldn't he beat today? So I'm the same as you on that. I'm not champion in the heavyweight division today, but I get what you're saying. There's two ways of looking at it. There's the boxing partisan way. Please, Joshua, do a number on him, get rid of him in 2 or 3 rounds, and strike a blow for boxing. Or there's your version, perhaps, or the flip side, which says, go in, Ngannou, spark him, and prove that these guys are a bunch of jokers today. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Although I do believe that Joshua should win this fight, and much easier. I do. He does have the fundamentals and the ability and the strength, the power, all that stuff. He's serious about his business. I think he's really going to try. Of course, if he gets, it's not even like Ngannou is the kind of puncher that's actually going to be able to hit Anthony Joshua, because he isn't a wild free swinger. You know what I mean? He doesn't. I don't think he knows how to fight. He doesn't know how to punch through punches. You know what I mean? Like, to get hit and to remain focused on, like Andy Ruiz did. Other guys
that's how he did it.
Exactly. You took it, and then you punched through it. It takes a very exceptional athlete to be able to punch through punches coming at you. Exceptional. Yeah. And he doesn't have that experience. But if he can do it, that would be hilarious. I mean, I'd be like, wow, okay. The world is not what I think it is.
Whole division. If he does do it, we'll scrap the whole division. But he'll be the highest paid guy who's had 2 losses and only 2 losses, assuming if he does lose.
If he does it, Gary's going to make a comeback. Let's go.
Yeah, we're going to be on that.
I think I'm a little. I rate the heavyweights today. I don't rate some of the performances have not been 100%, but I think it's like you have to look at all sport has developed. Runners are running faster, swimmers are swimming faster.
Boxers are not, though. That's the bogus argument, Gary.
You say that, but you put a Muhammad Ali, in all due respect, I'm not being funny, with a Tyson Fury. It's not an easy fight for Ali at all.
It's not an easy fight for 1976 Ali, but for 1968 Ali, yes, it is. It's an easy fight.
I don't think so, honestly. I don't think it is. I think he's. I'm not saying he's pretty to watch, but he's 6'9".
Gary,
he thumped Ernie Terrell at 6'9".
Regardless of Fury versus Ali, I just want to shoot down this progression argument as per other sports like athletics, for instance, which we always get hit with. So, okay, here's the thing: the top 5 welterweights in 1979 were Roberto Duran, Pepino Cuevas, Thomas Hearns, Wilfred Benitez, and Sugar Ray Leonard. Now,
they would all have a problem with Crawford.
Yeah, but there's only one of him. That was the top 5.
No, but I'm saying they would all have a problem with Crawford. Whether you respect that or not, I
didn't say they wouldn't have interesting fights at Crawford. What I'm saying is, if you compare that top 5 with today's top 5 is absolutely
No, and I say this: Lennox Lewis.
So where's your progression?
Hear me out. Lennox Lewis against Usyk would be laughable.
Yeah. So where's the progression there? Lewis is pretty old and antiquated now.
I understand that, but then there's some good heavyweights who I think you're.
So it's not athletics, right? It's not the same as athletics. In athletics, every single example would fit the narrative that you've absolutely correctly ascribed to it. So here's the thing. You know why it doesn't? Because in athletics.
Okay, where'd you put Manny Pacquiao back in the day? You don't think?
As far as I know, in athletics, the best race against the best, and that's their tournaments, and it's ultra competitive and dog eat dog. And if you ain't got it, then step to the side. In boxing, they've splintered things, they've diversified, they've created loads of disingenuous stages for world championships, and they've kept fighters apart. So the competition model is not the same. That's why they've not improved.
Where'd you put Manny Pacquiao back in the day?
It doesn't matter. I'm just shooting down the general argument.
Back in the day, you're disregarding all our athletes.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is we have not seen that across the board progression like in athletics or other sports, because boxing is very different to the other sports for a variety of reasons.
Different. It's a different beast. It's a different beast.
You can't apply those rules to that. That, Gary, is just the sort of thing that you'll get from the average man on the street who says, well, they've all got faster, haven't they? Jesse Owens wouldn't compete with.
I think you're romanticizing about the past a little bit, Ben.
So again,
I think you romanticize it a little bit about the classic, the past. You know, I think that there's some heavyweights today who would give trouble to any of the heavyweights in the past.
so which one's Fury?
I think Fury gives anyone problems. I think
Usyk.
the Ngannou fight, which made him look terrible. Other than that,
a debutant, yeah.
Yeah, come on, don't underestimate Ngannou so much. He's an unknown quantity. So, like I say, forget that. Other than that, he beat Klitschko, who was prime for champion for so many years in his back guard. Then he beat the monster of monsters, who's knocking everybody out. The biggest knockout ratio in boxing history.
Oh, but come on, don't use that.
No, he now has been exposed because maybe Fury destroyed him. But until then, he was a monster. They're all monsters till they get beat, and then we also easily
No. But we all don't think they're monsters going in. You look at him, you look at his qualities, you look at his abilities, and you're saying, I know that isn't real. When it comes up against something real, there's going to be a problem. And
yes.
if you look at Gary, if you look at any of those three fights, between Fury and Wilder, and you look at it, at no point do you look back and you say, wow, I would love to be able to do that. I would love, you know what I mean? The defensive inclinations, there are offensive abilities. I need that. I need to learn how to, none of that. It's just pedestrian.
Okay, look at this.
It's exciting, but it's pedestrian.
Look at this. I'm going to give you a gauge. So Lennox Lewis beat Klitschko, right? And we all rate Lennox like he's one of the greatest of all time. And let me tell you this. He did not beat Klitschko any better than Fury beat him. In fact, he had a harder fight than Fury had. So you're taking a gauge on two guys with the same opponent. Fury did a far better job than Klitschko, than Lennox. So if you don't say
they were different Klitschko brothers.
Hang on, they fought different Klitschkos.
They're different Klitschko brothers.
Okay, but either one was similar. I'm just saying.
No, they were pretty. Honestly, I'm not being a dick. They were pretty different. They were quite different.
Okay, but Fury fought the better one, actually.
No.
He wasn't necessarily the tougher one. He was the more accomplished one.
Yes, so Fury fought the better one and beat him easier than Lennox. So you have
ever since they've been different Klitschkos, that's lost its resonance. You
have to put some kind of gauge on it. That's all I'm saying. There's some kind of gauge. You can't write Fury off with such comfort because. No, I don't believe so. He fought the better of the Klitschkos and beat them easier than Lennox.
Okay, wait. So the same one that Lehman Brewster knocked out, that Klitschko, right?
No, Fury beat the one who hadn't been beat in 12 years, who'd been world champion.
No. Corey Sanders knocked him out, and so did
Ben. Will you inform Silk on the record of Klitschko before?
Klitschko, to be fair to Gary Silk, at the point that Fury beat him in November 2015 in Dusseldorf, he was on a very long run. He'd made something like 21.
A long run, but did he have losses before then?
21.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Gary's accepting that. He's saying that the guy had not been beat for about 10 years.
Okay, and then who did he? Those fights that he won, between, between Lehman Brewster and who did he fight after that?
Silk. If you won the world title, Silk, right?
Sure.
And had 21 defenses, I think
a world title or a few world titles, yeah.
Well, I think you'd expect some respect, right? 21 defenses. If I won the world title, period, and never fought again, I would want some respect. He had 21 defenses. I don't care who he fought. They were all up there.
He had 23 all told. I think he had 26 actually all told, which is more than Joe Louis, but they don't count it because Lewis was undisputed and it was consecutive and he never lost it. But I think he ended up racking up 26 defenses of a heavyweight world title belt.
Which is why Fury always talks so highly about the linear heavyweight, because he's the man who beat the man. And that's what, he's famous for. He doesn't care about WBC, he says, I'm the man who beat the man, which is his claim to fame. So he beat probably the better of the two Klitschkos in quite not easy fashion, but he never looked in any way pressured throughout. Lennox had a war with the
brother. Yeah,
brother. So all I'm saying is, forget they're different, but there's a gauge there. So there's a fight there. But I'm with Lennox.
You can't forget they're different. That's like saying, Look,
Sugar Ray Leonard would have beat Floyd Mayweather because he beat his dad.
Michael Spinks beat Dwight Muhammad Qawi, and Dwight Muhammad Qawi actually wrecked Leon Spinks. You know what I mean?
I'm the biggest Floyd Mayweather fan ever. Love him. I love when he makes people miss. For me, I'd rather watch someone who makes people miss than watch people knock people out. I think it's a beautiful art. But I've had the argument. I still think Ray Leonard beats him.
Yeah.
All day long. All day long, Ray beats Floyd. For me.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
You can go in on
No
that.
arguments there. We are unanimous.
All day long, I think Duran in his prime beats Floyd.
Yep.
I think probably, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting fight. I think
Duran
would have struggled with some of Floyd's cuteness. That would have given him problems. But I think
79 Duran that fought Sugar Ray Leonard in the Montreal Olympic Stadium.
I'll go with Duran.
Yeah, that's Duran.
But the worst one for Floyd, I've always said, is Tommy Hearns.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's even
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's not even a conversation. That gets murdered.
But see, this is what I like about this show, because we started with Beterbiev and Smith, and we were going to break that down as to what happened. But we literally go everywhere and cover everything. By the way, there's a comment from somebody regarding.
This is what happens when you don't have a director, Ben.
I think I think we went on. I think this, as much as we all were invested in the Smith fight, I think we covered it because there's really not a lot to cover.
Oh no, I'm not complaining. I like.
No, I mean, it was just really a mugging in a car park for me.
Funny comment from Joe here, though. He says the reason why Gary's got this confusion about the Klitschko brothers is because all those white guys look the same to Gary. Clearly,
Yeah, if it wasn't for your hat and glasses, I wouldn't know the difference between you.
The only reason I know the difference between you and Ben is I know Silk has an eye patch.
yeah, and it's not like it's not like they're the most sober, quiet accoutrements or accessories either, are they? It's not like he doesn't really, I don't know. I don't think you'd want to go back to the old two-eyed look, would you, Michael? I think you would make it.
I mean, it would definitely be better for me in terms of
life.
Yeah, to have two eyes is always a better.
Always a bonus.
Can modern science not
around like a cyclops isn't really.
Yeah. So could modern science not fix the eye?
No, absolutely not. In fact, I mean, when it happened to me, it happened like decades ago now. But
now,
but even still, like it's the kind of surgery that has to be done is like the eye attaches to the brain, and that's where all the ocular nerves are. And so, I mean, why am I gonna risk that? You know what I mean? Them digging inside my skull for what? I don't have to use it anymore in that way. I can at speeds I need to. So,
but is there a possible surgery that could work or not?
I don't think so. No, because again, it's the nerves attached to the brain. It's not like it's just the retina. It's not the superficial part up top. It's the damage that went back from there. I believe that's what I was told back then, but who knows? They make more progress on the eye in surgical eye surgeries. They've made more progress in being able to get them better than anywhere else. In fact, when I hear fighters talking about like they have they collapse their the floor that the eye sits on, I'm shocked that fighters, you know what I mean? They talk about it out loud and they're back in the ring then in the next year performing. And I'm always like, wow, they must have double vision. There's no way you can make it. What kind of surgery can make it so perfect that it's like nature, like how it was originally designed? Because all your eye has to do is shift. I couldn't even give you the degree that it would have to shift in order for it to be double vision when you go out. It's hardly anything. The most minuscule of measurements, and you've got double vision. So I really think a lot of fighters who had this kind of surgery are fighting with double vision. They have to.
Yeah. Although I think Sugar Ray said he had perfect vision after he got the
but he had retinal issue. That's different.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm talking about guys that had like the bombardier fracture. They talked about the vitreous hemorrhage, or the floor that the eye sits on.
Joe Saunders and the Kell Brook.
Exactly. Yeah, so he must still have double vision. It's impossible for him.
And Billy Joe hasn't fought since either. You know, he keeps saying he's going to, but
Yeah,
we still don't see any evidence of it so far.
Brooke came back and didn't he? He fought Amir Khan after the.
See, Brooke went out on a high, which was great to see, and
No, but he came back from the same problem. He had.
He did, yeah, and I was saying the thing
Golovkin,
about Brooke, he went out on a high, which was great for him, but
I think
unfortunately,
he's going to come back. I think he's going to come back for Conor Benn or for someone.
Well, we were watching it on Friday, weren't we? We were watching his interviews, and that's what I'm saying, Gary. I think it's a shame that Kell had gone at such a high financially and kind of, ego-wise and kind of achievement-wise after the job he did on Khan. And now he's talking about coming back in the ring where he will get beat by one of those young lions.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
That's what Kell Brooks said.
He will at some point, won't he?
Well,
Kell
maybe
Brooks said he's coming back. But it's almost like when a man has been humbled like that. Like, what was his last fight? That was against Crawford, right? Was it Crawford?
No, against Amir Khan. That's what I'm saying. He went out on a big high. He smashed Khan to pieces.
And who was the fight before? He fought Golovkin.
No, he didn't fight Golovkin. Sorry, he did fight Golovkin. I thought for a minute you meant Kovalev. No, he fought. He lost to Crawford. Yeah, sorry, no, Khan lost to Crawford, and so did Brooke lose to Crawford. Yeah,
yes, he did, right?
Lost to Crawford.
Hey, Gary, he can't help but say like no to me whenever I.
No, you won't give me credibility at all.
He loves just as long as he can prove me wrong. I don't understand.
You're the same way with me. You're like, it wasn't a Porsche, it was a grey Mustang. God knows where you got that from.
Not at all. I can't even remember any of that happening. I don't know where you. Sometimes fictional things that's why they call it fiction, right?
Selective memory.
Selective memory. Yeah.
But well, gentlemen, we've been on for 1 hour and 11 minutes and 15 seconds right now. So I think it's been a good show. Has anybody got something they really want to get off their chest still before we bid people good evening?
Yeah, this phlegm, this cold I've had is really.
Me too. I feel real tight-chested.
Really?
You know what? I think COVID's back.
I think so.
No, I'll tell you for why. Seriously. Yeah. With my issue with my neck and everything, right?
Yeah.
We went to the hospital. They made everybody wear masks again. Wouldn't let you in without masks.
Yeah.
So no one said anything, but the whole place was masks.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't 2 months ago. So now we went, and it was you have to put a mask on before you come in. And when we went, everyone masked, and no one's talking. But like suddenly the masks are back in hospital.
Wait,
so
go ahead.
You know, I felt like maybe they know something. I don't know, but yeah.
And they just don't want to give it a big time.
I think they got a handle of it, but they certainly made us put masks on. The whole place was messed up. And
okay, but did you guys believe it when it was actually happening? COVID?
I was cautious at first. Yeah.
I mean, I got it, but I had zero symptoms, nothing, zero.
Yeah, you got it. But so, like, y'all were walking around pretty much maskless. And
listen to this. I was flying to Thailand, so they tested me literally before I got on the plane. When I got off the plane in Thailand, they tested me again, and I was negative. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Before I got on the plane, negative. The flight off the plane, before I entered Thailand, they put us in a separate room, tested again, negative. Then to enter Thailand, you had to do a 5-day isolation. They wouldn't let, even though I was negative. I went into a special hotel 5 days, couldn't leave the room. And after 5 days, tested positive.
All right. When you're on your own in isolation.
On my own. So it must have been the flight, obviously, that I caught something. It must have shut. And then I was positive, and then I had to isolate again. And then I was negative after a week or whatever. But in the whole process, zero symptoms at all. No, I think it's just a big, I don't know. It looked to me like, certainly with the way they structured the travel in Asia, when you land there, you had to do 5 days in a special hotel. It was so expensive. Everybody, it was just like massive business for the hotels and money. And, everybody had to book in these hotels, thousands of people paying X amount of 5 nights to do it. And it was just all based on this. But it was like the hotel business was like every hotel was booked solid. So tourism was money for the whole thing. The country earned a fortune. I think it was, there was a certain business aspect to it. But yeah. But anyway,
we do some kind of thing where we say, in order to protect yourself from this thing we're going to invent, the plague, you have to watch this twice a week and click on all our videos and subscribe to the channel. Do you think it could work?
Yeah, I think it could work. But
I don't think they'd watch us if you threatened them with the plague. They wouldn't watch us.
well, listen, Ben, you have to learn to take the show out properly anyway, because
sorry about that.
Over 15 minutes already.
Yeah, sorry about that, Silk. I know you're a stickler for professionalism and being right on the button, and your flow and sense of other people in the show is beautiful, flawless. I'm really sorry that I'm dragging you down the way I am. On that note, guys, thanks for watching. We hope you've enjoyed our hopefully fascinatingly disjointed conversation. As always, we liked it. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done that already. We will be at the press conference tomorrow getting content exclusively for you at the Fury. Why did I say Fury? Fuck's sake, I'm getting like Silk. At the Joshua Ngannou press conference.
You said John Content. You said John Content.
Yeah, I did as well. It's all been a bit of a car crash. I'm getting so kind of relaxed and loose like you.
So would you just try and talk us out?
Yeah, go on. Because that wasn't very good. So go on, Silk, close the show for us.
And on that note, Gary Stretch, and for Sugar himself is Michael Sokolajide saying peace. We'll see you next week.
Take care.